I never thought Christmas could taste like ash. But there I was, ripping open that envelope with fingers numb from the cold draft sneaking under the door. The words, irreconcilable differences, blurring through tears that weren't from joy. My husband, Victor Hale, the golden boy of Wall Street, who'd promised me the world on a silver platter, had timed it perfectly. Process server at our Park Avenue brownstone just as Bing Crosby crooned White Christmas from the speakers he'd installed to drown out our fights. And the kicker? Buried in the legalese was the real gut punch. I was being pinned for the embezzlement that had padded his offshore accounts. The crime he'd sworn I'd never know about. The one I'd unknowingly signed off on during one of his business trips that left me holding the bag. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But mine started burning hot that night, fueled by the kind of rage that makes a woman question if she'd trade her soul for a second chance. And hell, I did. Right there in the witching hour. Whispering a desperate plea to whatever god or glitch in the universe might listen. By dawn, I woke up in a body that wasn't mine, staring at a reflection of Victor's smug, chiseled jawline in the mirror of his private jet bathroom, hurtling toward a board meeting in D.C., where he'd planned to toast his freedom with single malt scotch and a new mistress on his arm. Body swaps aren't real. You scoff? Try telling that to the man whose life I was about to dismantle brick by predatory brick. The first thing I noticed wasn't the silk pajamas clinging to skin that felt too taut, too male, or the faint stubble scraping my palm as I touched his cheek. No. It was the scent, expensive cologne mixed with the stale tang of last night's bourbon. A reminder that Victor had crashed hard after sealing the deal on my ruin. I stumbled out of the king-sized bed in his D.C.
Pied-à-terre.
The sheets tangled like the lies he'd spun for years. The clock on the nightstand blinked 5:47 a.m. December 25th. And my heart, his heart, pounded with a fury that wasn't programmed into this 6'2" frame of entitlement. I raided the closet first, pulling on one of his bespoke suits that hung like armor on my borrowed bones. The mirror in the full-length door didn't lie. Victor Hale stared back. All sharp blue eyes and a jaw that could cut glass. The kind of face that made regulators look the other way and interns blush. But inside, Harper Voss, soon-to-be ex-Hale, was calling the shots. And she had a ledger full of scores to settle. Victor had built his empire on the backs of people like me, the trusting wife who'd balanced his books while he chased skirts in the Hamptons, the loyal execs he'd scapegoated for his Ponzi-adjacent schemes. The embezzlement? That was his masterpiece. Siphoning millions from the Hale Fund into Cayman trusts. And he'd forged my signature on the dummy docs, making me the fall guy when the feds came knocking. Why me? I'd screamed into the phone that Christmas morning, after the server slunk away like a bad dream. Victor's voice had been silk over steel. Because you love me, Harp. And love means sacrifice. Sacrifice. The word curdled in my gut as I fastened his Rolex, our wedding gift, the one I'd pawned in my mind 1,000 times. Downstairs, the doorman nodded deferentially, mistaking me for the boss, and I slipped into the Blacktown car idling curbside, the driver murmuring about the morning's snow flurries dusting the National Mall. The board meeting was at the Hay Adams, that gilded cage of a hotel where power brokers nursed hangovers and hashed out deals that shaped markets. I arrived early, nursing a black coffee in the lobby bar, eavesdropping on the suits milling about. Victor's inner circle was there, Elena, the CFO with her razor bob and sharper tongue, who'd once been my sorority sister before Victor's charm turned her into his attack dog, Marcus, the head of compliance, a balding yes-man who'd signed off on the shady transfers, and Lydia, the executive assistant, whose desk calendar was dotted with Victor's late-night meetings. They didn't notice anything off about Victor as I joined them. Why would they? I laughed at their jokes, clapped Marcus on the back a little too hard, and when Elena leaned in with the agenda, I caught the faint whiff of her Chanel No. 5. The same perfume I'd worn before Victor said it made me smell desperate. The conference room overlooked Lafayette Square. Protesters' signs bobbing faintly in the distance, something about income inequality. Ironic given the room's walnut paneling and crystal decanters. I took Victor's seat at the head, the leather creaking under me like a warning. "Gentlemen, Elena," I said, pitching my voice low and commanding, just like he taught me in those early days when I was still his secret weapon at cocktail parties. "Let's make this quick. We've got a holiday to salvage." They dove in, quarterly reports, projections, the usual smoke and mirrors. But when Marcus slid over the compliance update, my pulse spiked. There it was, in black and white, the flagged transactions, the ones Victor had buried under layers of shell companies. "Sir," Marcus droned, "the auditors are sniffing around. If we don't reroute the discretionary funds soon, it could trace back to me, to Harper, the woman they'd all toasted at the holiday gala last month. Me in my emerald gown, smiling through gritted teeth as Victor's hand lingered too long on Lydia's waist. I leaned forward, steepling Victor's manicured fingers. "Reroute? Gentlemen, that's amateur hour. We're Hail Fund. We don't reroute, we redefine." Elena's eyes narrowed, smart girl, but she nodded, scribbling notes. I dropped the bomb casually, like Victor would. "And starting today, we're going fully transparent. Full audit trail on every transfer. No more shadows." The room froze. Marcus choked on his water. "Sir, that would
Expose the
legacy allocations." "Legacy." I barked a laugh that echoed off the walls.
Call it what it is, theft.
"And I'm done stealing from widows and orphans to fund my ex's alimony." The words hung there, controversial as a lit match in a powder keg. Elena's pen snapped. "Your ex? Victor? What the hell?" I stood, towering over them in his polished Oxfords. "Divorce papers hit this morning. Merry Christmas to me, or rather,
To her.
Harper's taking the fall for our sins. But not on my watch. We're cleaning house, or I walk and take the keys to the kingdom with me." Lies wrapped in half-truths. The kind Victor peddled daily, but laced with my venom. Marcus blustered about shareholder revolt. Elena accused me of a breakdown. But power, real power, is in the bluff. And I had Victor's Rolodex in my pocket, literally. His phone buzzing with texts from senators and CEOs. By meeting's end, I'd extracted promises. Elena to lead the audit, Marcus to shred the forgeries after I photographed them on Victor's phone, my hands shaking with the thrill of it. And Lydia? I fired her on the spot, citing irreconcilable overlaps in duties. Her face crumpled, mascara streaking like the tears I'd shed hours ago in a body that was now hers to mourn. As they filed out, whispering about Victor's midlife epiphany, I slipped into the powder room, locking the door and dry-heaving into the sink. This body, this life, it itched like a bad transplant. Every gesture a betrayal of who I was. But the swap? That was the real mystery. Last night, after the papers, I'd blacked out on the brownstone's Persian rug, a half-empty bottle of Veuve beside me, murmuring some half-remembered incantation from a trashy novel I'd read in college. Witchcraft? Science? A cosmic fuck you from the universe? Didn't matter. What mattered was the access. Victor's emails. His vaults. His vulnerabilities laid bare like a spread eagle. Back in the town car. En route to the airport for a connecting flight to New York. Irony of ironies. To face the wreckage of our life, I scrolled through his messages. One from his lawyer. Papers served. She's crumbling. Perfect. Another from Elena. Time-stamped pre-meeting. Harper's signature holds. Feds by it. And buried deeper. A thread with an unknown number. The ritual worked. She's in you now. Finish it before she figures the swap. Ritual? My blood ran cold. This wasn't random. Someone had engineered this. Betrayal on betrayal. Victor's inner demons weren't just financial. They were occult. The kind of dark web dabbling that made sense of his late-night meditations and the strange amulet he'd worn since our honeymoon. The jet taxied at Reagan National. Snow devils whipping across the tarmac. I buckled in, the leather seat molding to Victor's frame like it owned him. As we lifted off, I plotted my first real move, confront the source. But first, New York. Home. Where the Christmas lights still twinkled mockingly. And Harper Voss waited in Victor's skin, ready to peel back the layers of his empire until it bled truth. Touching down at Teterboro felt like descending into my own grave, Victor's private airstrip. A stone's throw from the brownstone where I'd spent 15 Christmases playing the perfect wife. The driver, a stoic Eastern European named Dmitri who'd ferried us to galas and golf outings, didn't bat an eye when I climbed into the Maybach. Good flight, mister. Hail, he grunted, eyes on the rear view as we merged onto the Van Wyck. The best, I replied, voice gravelly from disuse. Testing the timbre. It came out smoother than expected, laced with that arrogance I'd always hated in Victor. Good. I'd need it. The city was a blur of red taillights and sodium glow. Holiday traffic clotting the arteries like cholesterol in an old man's veins. My mind raced ahead. The brownstone would be empty. Victor had texted his assistant to secure the premises, code for scrubbing any trace of me. But I had his biometrics. His codes. Slipping inside would be child's play. What gnawed at me was the ritual hint. Victor. My Victor. Dabbling in the arcane? It tracked. In a twisted way. He'd always chased edges, coke-fueled weekends in Vegas. Insider trades that danced on the razor's edge of legality. But swapping souls? That was next-level hubris. The kind that begged for karmic backlash. We pulled up to the curb at 8:42 p.m. The brownstone's facade aglow with the automated lights I'd programmed last summer, twinkling like false cheer. Dmitri idled as I punched the gate code, our anniversary, 0714, and strode up the steps, key fob beeping softly. Inside, the air hung heavy with pine and neglect. The Christmas tree sagged, ornaments askew from my earlier unraveling. I flicked on the hall light, half expecting to see my own body slumped on the foyer bench. But no, just the echo of my heels, his wingtips, on the herringbone floor. Upstairs to the study. Victor's sanctum sanctorum. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves crammed with first editions he never read, a humidor stocked with Cubans, and the massive oak desk where he'd signed away our future. I booted up his laptop, retina scan, effortless, and dove into the encrypted folders. Password? Our dog's name. Max. The golden retriever he'd forgotten at the kennel last month. Hypocrite. The files unfolded like a house of cards, spreadsheets tracing the embezzlement from inception. Emails to offshore fixers. Even a dossier on me, Harper Voss Hale. Age 38. Wharton MBA. Loyal asset. Potential liability. My stomach twisted. There, in a subfolder labeled Contingencies, was the bomb, a scanned confession. My handwriting forged, but flawless. Admitting to the fraud. Dated yesterday. Bastard had planned this for months. Deeper still. The weird shit, a chat log with adept_7, time-stamped erratic hours. The vessel must be weakened, grief. Isolation. Christmas amplifies the resonance. Vessel.
Me.
And Victor's replies, she's primed. Do the exchange at midnight. I get her body, clean slate, no traces. You get the power conduit. Power conduit? My hands, his hands, trembled as I cross-referenced. Adept_7 was Dr. Elias Crow, a disgraced physicist turned fringe occultist. The kind who lectured at Burning Man on quantum entanglement and soul migration. Victor had funded his research off books. $1 million wired last spring. The swap wasn't fate. It was a transaction. Me bartered like a bad stock. Rage boiled over. I smashed the laptop shut, the crack echoing like gunfire. Down to the wine cellar, our romantic retreat, he called it, I uncorked a 98 Chateau Margaux, the bottle glugging into a crystal tumbler. Sipping Victor's vintage. In Victor's skin, I paced the cool stone walls. Plotting. Step 1. Neutralize the evidence. I'd already set Elena on the audit. Now, for the personal touch. His phone buzzed, Lydia. Hysterical. You can't fire me. After everything? I typed back. Cold as December. Everything? Pack your desk. Or the photos go to HR. Photos. The ones I'd glimpsed in his cloud. Her. Him. Tangled in the Four-Season suite. Leverage. The great equalizer. But revenge isn't just deletion, it's revelation. I needed allies. The kind Victor had crushed. First call. To my brother. Jake. In Queens. He'd hated Victor from day one. Called him Wall Street's used car salesman. Jake picked up on the second ring. Voice thick with eggnog cheer. Hale, what the fuck do you want on Christmas? I swallowed. Pitching lower. Jake. It's me. Harper. Silence. Then a bark of laughter. Nice try, asshole. My sister's probably crying into her cocoa because of you. I described the mole on his left ass cheek from that family camping trip in '09. Info Victor never knew. The line went dead for a beat. Then, holy shit. How? We talked for an hour. Me pacing the kitchen island where I'd hosted brunches for his cronies. Spilling the swap. The scam. The ritual. Jake. Ever the pragmatist, a NYPD detective with a gut full of skepticism, didn't buy the supernatural at first. Body swap? Harp. You hit your head. But the details sold it. The amulet Victor wore. A obsidian pendant etched with sigils. The one I'd mocked as his wizard bling. Jake cursed. Crow's a ghost, fled a fraud bust in 22. If Hale's in your body. He trailed off. We get you back. And bury him. Second call, Elena. Risky. But she'd been my friend once. Before ambitions soured her. Victor? It's late. Her tone dripped suspicion. I played the aggrieved husband. The papers. They gutted me. Harper's innocent. The fraud's on me. A pause. Then a hiss. What game is this? No game, just truth. Laced with a threat. Audit goes forward. Or the board sees your bonus trail to the Caymans. She agreed to meet at dawn. Neutral ground. The Bethesda fountain in Central Park. Dawn broke gray and grudging, snow dusting the benches like powdered sugar on a stale donut. I arrived bundled in Victor's Burberry coat, breath fogging as Elena approached, thermos in hand, eyes scanning for tails. "You look like hell," she said, thrusting it at me, coffee.
Black.
We walked the loop, her heels crunching ice.
Spill, she demanded.
I did, the swap in broad strokes, omitting the woo-woo. The frame job. My Victor's complicity. Her face hardened. "You expect me to tank my career for your marital drama?" But doubt flickered. She'd seen the ledgers, the red flags I'd just ignited. "One condition," she said finally. "Immunity. We go to the feds together."
Deal.
Betrayal's currency is mutual destruction. By noon, we were at a midtown diner. The kind with vinyl booths and waitresses who call you Han. Elena's laptop open. We traced the funds, $47 million. Funneled through NGOs that were fronts for Victor's vanity projects, a yacht in Monaco, a pied a terre in Aspen. Controversial? Hell yes. Those donations had starved real charities. The ones I'd championed at galas, toasting with champagne while kids in the Bronx went hungry. I felt it then, the moral rot seeping through his skin, every decision a knife twist, every lie a weight. But I pressed on, emailing the prelim audit to a SEC contact Elena swore was clean. Afternoon blurred into calls, Jake rallying off-record contacts at the DA's office. Me liquidating Victor's crypto wallet, $2 million in Bitcoin, siphoned to an Anon account I'd set up in my maiden name. Empowerment, bitter as black coffee. But as dusk fell, the first crack appeared. A text from Dimitri. "Sir, paparazzi at the gate." Something about a divorce leak. Victor in my body had lawyered up, spinning the narrative. Poor cuckolded Victor, dumped by the gold-digging wife. My face splashed across TMZ. Hail, heiress flees with fortune?
Lies.
Amplified by bots Victor's PR firm controlled.
Panic clawed.
But so did purpose. Night found me back at the brownstone, amulet in hand, the one I'd pried from his safe. It hummed faintly, warm against his palm.
Crow.
I needed answers. Jake traced him to a derelict warehouse in Red Hook, the kind of place where Brooklyn's underbelly festered. Armed with Victor's Glock, registered. Of course, perks of power. I drove the Maybach through slushy streets, the bridge lights mocking me like judgmental stars. The warehouse loomed, graffiti-tagged and chain-link fenced, a relic of industrial glory. I cut the engine a block away, hood up against the chill, slipping through a side gate like a ghost in a power suit. Inside, the air reeked of mildew and ozone, fluorescent buzz cutting shadows. "Crow," I called, voice echoing. Footsteps, then a figure emerged from the gloom, gaunt, wild-eyed, lab coat over a Metallica tee. "Hail?"
Or.
Voss. His grin was feral. The vessel awakens. We circled each other like prize fighters. Me gripping the Glock, him clutching a battered laptop. "The ritual," I demanded. "You sold him my body for what? A cut of the loot?" Crow laughed. A wet rasp. "Power. Darling. Quantum entanglement. Souls as particles. Swapped via resonance." Victor funded the proof. "But you're the anomaly." Stronger echo. "You're overriding him." Overriding. The word chilled. Was this temporary? Or was I erasing Victor's essence? Becoming him? He lunged for a console, fingers flying, Alarms blared. Red lights pulsing. I fired a warning shot.
Concrete chipping.
Fix it. But Crow was cunning. A step ahead, gas hissing from vents. My vision blurring. Last thing I saw was his face. Triumphant. The swap's a bridge. Burn it. And you're trapped. Darkness swallowed me. The warehouse fading to black. Victor screams, my screams, echoing in the void. Waking up strapped to a gurney in what smelled like a mad scientist's wet dream, rusty pipes dripping. Monitors beeping erratically, wasn't the low point.
No.
That came when I realized the straps were biometric, keyed to Victor's vitals. And my borrowed heart was racing too fast, triggering lockdown. Crow's lab was a fever dream of exposed wiring and chalkboard equations. Sigils scrawled in what looked like chalk, but flaked red blood. I wrenched against the restraints, leather-biting wrists that weren't calloused from years of bar classes and charity runs. Crow, you son of a bitch. He materialized from a side alcove, syringe in hand, his eyes gleaming like a dealer closing a score. Patience. MS.
Voss.
Or should I say, Mr. Hale? The overwrite's progressing, your neural patterns bleeding into a substrate. Fascinating. He jabbed the needle into my foreline. A cool rush flooding veins. Sedative? No. Clarity sharpened. Memories flashing Victor's. Not mine. Flashes of boardrooms where he'd crushed rivals. Bedrooms where he'd whispered lies to me. Harper. While plotting my obsolescence. What do you want? I growled, hating how his baritone rumbled. Validation, Crow said, wheeling over a cart of gadgets, crystals pulsing with inner light, a helmet rigged with electrodes. Victor's money bought the tech. But you're the proof of concept. Soul is software. Body is hardware. Swap them. And power shifts. He monologued like a Bond villain. Pacing. How Victor had approached him post-scandal. Desperate for a reset after the feds closed in on the embezzlement. The ritual? A hybrid. Quantum entanglement via particle accelerator scraps. Amplified by occult resonance. Christmas Eve solstice energy as catalyst. He wanted your body for the optics. Grieving widow. Sympathetic. Clean break. New life with his assets intact.
But I
added a failsafe. For science. Failsafe. The word dripped poison. You trapped me here to watch me unravel? Crow shrugged. Or evolve. Already. You're accessing his repressed files, childhood abuse from that Senator Daddy. The first kill. Cover up. Kill? My mind reeled, pulling Victor's memory. A hooker in Atlantic City. 05. OD'd on bad product he'd supplied. Body dumped. Trail pinned on arrival. The crime I'd borne? Not just financial, emotional. Vicarious. The stain of his sins seeping into our marriage. I'd felt it. The unease. Dismissed as paranoia. Now it flooded. Every mistake I'd cleaned up. From falsified taxes to hushed affairs. I'd shouldered unwittingly. His perfect patsy. I strained. Biometrics beeping approval as adrenaline synced. One strap popped, then chaos. I lunged, tackling Crow to the grimy floor. His syringe skittering. We grappled. His wiry frame, surprisingly fierce. Nails raking Victor's Armani shirt. You think you're free, he wheezed. Knee to my gut. The bridge burns at dawn. No reverse without the amulet, and it's keyed to him. Him. The real Victor. In my body. Probably lawyering up in some spa retreat. spinning yarns of spousal abuse. I headbutt him, stars exploding, and snatched a loose cable, wrapping it around his throat. Controversial? In that moment, yes, strangling a genius in a Brooklyn squat felt like crossing into Victor's darkness. But survival's a bitch. Crow gurgled, eyes bulging, then went limp. I released,
gasping.
his laptop screen flickering nearby, a timer. 4:17 to collapse. Collapse. The swap ending. Trapping me here forever? Or worse, souls snapping back. Me in a body the feds hunted? Pocketing a USB drive, Crow's data dump, he called it. I hotwired the door, Victor's memory, a yacht heist in his frat days, and stumbled into the Red Hook night. Fog rolled off the canal, muffling the distant wail of sirens. Mine? Jake's? The Maybach was gone. Impounded maybe. So, I hot-footed it to the F train. Victor's loafers blistering heels that weren't used to pavement. Subways at midnight. The underbelly of America. Junkies nodding in corners. A sax player wailing Silent Night for quarters. I tossed a 50, Victor's wallet fat, and caught a uptown train. Mind whirring. Elena met me at her Upper East Side walk-up. A stark contrast to Victor's ostentation. IKEA shelves, cat hair on the couch. Jesus. Victor, you look like you wrestled a meth head. I collapsed onto a bar stool, spilling the warehouse tale. USB plugged into her Mac. Files bloomed. Ritual schematics. Victor's payments. Even a video log, him chanting in a candlelit circle. My photo as focus. Elena's face paled. This is insane. Occult fraud? The board will crucify us. But her fingers flew, copying to secure servers. CCNG, her SEC ghost. We plotted till 3 a.m., exposed the financials publicly, leaked the ritual as Hale's delusionary breakdown, force a reverse. But the controversial pivot used Victor's influence one last time. I called in favors, a Times reporter owed from a tip-off, a senator's aid from a campaign donation. By 5 a.m., headlines were drafting. Hale fund implodes, CEO in embezzlement probe. My byline? Anonymous source. But the sting was personal. Dawn crept, and with it, the pull of vertigo like falling asleep on a plane. The bridge burning. I clutched the amulet, stolen from Crow's neck, its obsidian warm, pulsing. Elena. If this fails, she squeezed his shoulder. Fight it. You're Harper. Not him. But as the world tilted, memories warred, my wedding vows clashing with Victor's conquests, my charity balls with his backroom deals. I blacked out on her rug, the amulet clutched like a rosary. When I came to, it was in silk sheets that smelled of lavender, my scent. My body. The brownstone's master bath mirror confirmed. Harper Voss stared back. Dark circles under hazel eyes, but whole. Elation surged, then dread. Where was Victor? A note on the vanity. Elena scrawl. He's here. Feds en route. You did it. Here, I burst into the guest room. Finding him. Or me. My body. But Victor's sneer twisting the lip side, painted red 1,000 times. Clever girl, he drawled. Cuffed to the bed frame. Jake's handiwork. But you think this ends it? The confrontation was raw. Intimate. Two souls in swapped shells. Now reversed. Glaring across the divide. You used me, I hissed. Slapping him. My own cheek stinging. The fraud. The affairs. The ritual. You sacrificed us for your ego. He laughed. Chilling in my soprano. Sacrificed? You were complicit. Harp. Sign the docs. Turned blind eyes. And the swap? My insurance. Crow's dead, you're doing, but I have backups. Backups. A chill, offshore drives. Hidden allies. Jake burst in then. Badge flashing. Backup in tow. Harper? Holy shit. Victor lunged. Wild-eyed. But zip ties held. As they hauled me, away. His eyes locked on mine. Promise of war. The feds swarmed. Elena's leaks bearing fruit. Warrants. Seizures. By noon, the Hale Fund was in receivership. Headlines screaming, tycoon's Christmas collapse. Wife's revenge. Controversial spin, me as vengeful harpy or whistleblower. Twitter, X. Whatever ignited. Hale swap trending. Conspiracy nuts claiming body double deepfakes. But the tension coiled tighter. Victor's backups manifested that evening. A burner call to Elena. Voice mine but laced with his venom. Walk it back. Or your family's next. Her husband. A teacher in Jersey, leverage. I coached her through countermeasures. But doubt festered. Was the swap fully reversed? Nightmares plagued. Victor's memories lingering. His urges whispering, power's addictiveness. The thrill of the con. I confided in Jake over takeout lo mein. Rain lashing the windows.
Am I?
Tainted. He hugged me fierce.
Nah.
You're the one who fought back. Revenge's second act brewed in the shadows. Victor lawyered up from holding. Spinning victimhood. Abused by my unstable wife. Occult delusions. His camp leaked evidence. Doctored therapy notes. My hysteria. Public opinion swung. Feminists cheering my takedown. Trads decrying emasculation. I hit back. Granting interviews. Poised in cablenet. Voice steady. He framed me for his crimes. I exposed him. Ratings soared. But so did threats, anonymized emails. Snitches get stitches. Harper. The climax loomed. Arraignment. Manhattan Criminal Court. A week post-Christmas. Snow blanketed the steps. Protesters chanting, pro-Hale suits versus. My ragtag supporters. Inside. The gallery buzzed. Victor. In orange jumpsuit that clashed with my old highlights. Smirked across the aisle. His lawyer, a shark named Hargrove, moved to dismiss. My client's identity compromised, possible identity theft.
Gasps.
The ritual, twisted into legal theater. I took the stand, heart hammering. Your Honor, Victor Hale orchestrated not just financial ruin, but a violation of self. He swapped. Laughter rippled. The judge banged gavel. But Elena's testimony sealed it. Ledgers. Wires. Crow's USB decrypted, irrefutable. Victor's face cracked. My features crumpling in rage. Bitch, he snarled. Lunging, chaos. Bailiffs tackling. Verdict. Held without bail. Trial set for spring. Outside. Flashbulbs blinded. Reporters shouting. Harper. Was it worth it? Worth the darkness I'd touched. The moral gray I'd waded? As I slipped into Jake's unmarked sedan. The amulet heavy in my pocket destroyed? Or talisman? I whispered. They weren't ready. But was I? The weeks post-arraignment blurred into a haze of depositions and death threats. My life reduced to a fortified Tribeca loft. Jake had strong-armed from a precinct contact. Bulletproof glass. Panic button by the bed. The works. America loves a spectacle. And our saga was catnip. The Wall Street witch and her warlock husband. body swaps, and buried millions making primetime fodder. Late-night hosts quipped about Hale's Holiday special, while Reddit rabbit holed the occult angle. Doxing Crow's ghost accounts. I fielded offers, book deals. Netflix true crime pitches. But revenge isn't a product, it's a parasite, gnawing deeper each dawn. Elena's defection proved double-edged. She'd flipped fully, testifying for immunity, her poise cracking only once on the stand, recounting Victor's seduction, how he'd groomed her from my bridal party to boardroom enforcer. He promised partnership, she whispered. Eyes on me. Harper. The ghost she'd betrayed. Post-hearing, we met at a dive in Hell's Kitchen, nursing IPAs amid the jukebox's twang. I thought power was the goal, she said, tracing bottle condensation. But it's poison. Controversial absolution? Maybe. I clinked glasses. We're the antidote. But trust? Fractured. Like the amulet shards I'd ground under heel that first night back in my skin. Victor's counteroffensive ramped via proxies. Hargrove subpoenaed my psych records, pulled from a decade-old breakdown after a miscarriage he blamed on stress, code for his affair du jour. Leaks painted me unstable. Voss Hale's delusions, ritual or psychosis? Pundits debated on Fox. My face morphing from heroin to hysteric. Jake beefed security. But the real siege was internal. Victor's memories lingered like squatters, the rush of closing a crooked deal, the metallic tang of suppressed guilt. Nightmares had me waking in sweats, convinced I'd swapped back, hands groping for his stubble, only to find my own curves. Therapy helped Dr.
Row.
A no-nonsense shrink with a Brooklyn accent, but pills couldn't erase the what-ifs. What if the override stuck? What if I liked the power? Spring thawed the city. Cherry blossoms mocking the chill in my veins as trial loomed. Pre-trial motions dragged, Victor's team alleging marital coercion, claiming I'd driven him to fraud via emotional abuse. Laughable, but sticky. Jurors ate sob stories. I prepped with Elena and Jake. War rooming in the loft, timelines pinned to corkboards. Witness trees branching like veins. The twist hit mid-April. A FedEx bomb disguised as legal docs, a flash drive, labeled Truth Serum. Plugged in, against Jake's bellowed protests, it auto-played. Video of me. As Harper. Signing the embezzlement waivers. Not forged real. Timestamped 2 years back. During a girls' weekend, in Napa that Victor had orchestrated remotely via deepfake Zoom. Betrayals echo chamber. He'd gaslit me into complicity, feeding half-truths through consults while I sipped rose. The crime I'd borne? Willing. In blindness. Rage warred with shame. I'd wanted to believe in us. In the empire we'd build.
Now.
It crumbled my defense. Knowledgeable participant. Hargrove crowed in motions. Elena paled. Plausible deniability shredded. Jake paced. We pivot. Frame it as duress. But the jury pool poisoned. Polls swinging. 52% saw me as co-conspirator. Desperation birthed controversy. I greenlit the book, Ghostrin. Rushed, titled Swap Souls, A Wife's Reckoning. Chapters dripped venom. Victor's affairs catalogued like receipts. The ritual detailed as metaphor for his soul-sucking control. Sales spiked, but backlash bit. Cancel Harper trended, accusing me of profiting off trauma. Protests outside the courthouse. Pickets with justice for victims, not vixens. I stared them down from the steps. Nikes on my feet, grounded.
Defiant. Inside.
Victor's eyes met mine across the bar. Karma. Harp. You always were the weak link. Climax crested May 15th. Opening statements in the stuffy courtroom. AC, wheezing like an asthmatic. Hargrove painted Victor the patsy, a man ensnared by a woman's ambition. Her occult obsessions. Gasps, he'd spun the swap as my delusion, amulet evidence of cult ties. My counsel, a firebrand named Ruiz, countered fierce, Mr. Hale didn't just steal millions, he stole identities. Souls. Exhibits rolled. Ledgers. Wires. Crow's decrypted logs. Elena took the stand, voice steady. He coerced us all. The ritual? His escape hatched from accountability. Then me. Under oath. Lights hot as judgment. I recounted the Christmas serve, the swap's vertigo framing it psychological, not supernatural. To dodge laughs. I woke in his skin. Saw the rot. That's when I fought. Cross-exam was brutal, Hargrove waving the nap of it. You signed, Mrs.
Hale.
Willingly. Silence stretched. I trusted, I said, voice cracking. He made me complicit in blindness. But I ended it. Jury murmurs, pity,
Doubt.
Victor testified last. In my body eerie, his gestures puppeteering my grace. Harper unraveled years ago. Miscarriage broke her, then paranoia. The swap. Her fantasy. Lies slick as oil. But Ruiz trapped him on redirects. The payments to Crow. Mr. Hale? For research? He blustered, consulting. Cracks spiderwebbed. Deliberations dragged 3 days. City holding breath. I holed up with Jake. Binging bad TV. Amulet dust scattered like exorcism. Verdict read at dusk. Guilty on all counts, fraud. Conspiracy. Even manslaughter for the '05 cover-up unearthed in Crow's files. Victor's scream, my scream, rent the air. This isn't over. Sentenced to 25. To life. Supermax in Otisville. His empire auctioned. Proceeds to victims' funds I'd oversee. Cheers erupted outside, but victory tasted Pyrrhic. Elena hugged me. We did it. Jake grinned. Sis. You're free. Free? As confetti rained, activists stewing, I slipped away, hailing a cab to the brownstone. Empty now. Echoes mocking. I poured the last Margot. Toasting ghosts. But twists don't end tidy. Weeks later, a postcard arrived. Otisville postmark. Victor's scrawl in my looping hand. The bridge isn't burned. Harp. Echoes linger. Watch your back. Chills. Was it bluff? Or had the swap left tendrils, his essence in me? Mine in him? Therapy delved. But answers evaded. I dated tentatively, a barista named Theo. All tattoos and kindness, but Victor's shadow loomed. His memories surfacing in stress, ruthless urges. The thrill of betrayal. Publicly, I pivoted. Foundation for fraud victims. TED Talk on gaslighting script. Controversial still, detractors called it grift redemption, but debates raged. Was I avenger or enabler? Heroine or harpy? The discourse fueled me. A new power. Earned in fire. Yet tension simmered. Late June. Elena vanished, poof. Mid-meeting. Her loft ransacked. Phone dead. Jake's team scoured, no body. No ransom. A note in her handwriting. The overwrite wins. Victor's phrase. Panic clawed. Had he orchestrated from inside? Or worse, me? Unconsciously. His echo acting out? I confronted the mirror. Hazel eyes searching for blue. Who's in there? No answer. But resolve hardened. Revenge's final arc. Infiltrate Otisville. Face him one last time. Controversial? Inmate visits were monitored. But money, residual hail funds, oiled palms. Jake protested. Let it go. But closure's a lie. It's confrontation. The visit room. Plexiglass divide. My reflection warped beside his. My face. Hardened by prison pallor. Miss me? Harp. His grin. My lips curling cruel. What did you do to Elena? He leaned in. Nothing you wouldn't. The swap's quantum. Entanglements persist.
She's
Relocated. Like Crow. Murder? My gut twisted. You're bluffing. Laughter tinkled. Test me. Or join her. I hung up. Storming out. But seeds planted. Doubt. The ultimate poison. Back home. I dug. Elena's browser history. Wiped but cached. Searches for reverse ritual. Coordinates to a Nevada desert. Victor's old bolt hole. Jake mobilized. But I went solo. Driving through heartland nights. Radio crackling Springsteen anthems of blue-collar rage. Nevada. Dust devils and delusion. A ghost town airstrip where Victor's jet had once idled. Elena there? Or trap? The controversial choice. Arm myself. Glock from the brownstone safe, his. Now mine. Twilight found me at the hangar. Door ajar. Wind moaning. Inside. Figures Elena.
bound.
Gagged in Crow? No, his twin? Or clone of madness. Harper. Elena rasped as I freed her.
He. It.
The echo. Victor's in all of us. Paranoia or truth. Then shots, Hargrove's men. Victor's last loyalists. Emerging from shadows. Gunfight erupted. Just choking. My shots wild but true, one down. Then frenzy. Elena grabbed a rifle. Covering. Fight. We prevailed. Bodies crumpling, no gore. Just finality. But the twist. In the lead goon's phone. A message from Victor. And her. The bridge reforms at Equinox. Reform? The swap cycling? Dawn broke as we fled. Sirens distant. Elena whispering. We burn it all. Summer scorched into fall. The Nevada shootout buried under NDAs and Jake's pull, self-defense. Clean, he assured. But the weight lingered like humidity. Elena and I went underground, her in witness protection upstate. Me liquidating the last Hale assets into a trust for the swindled. The foundation thrived. Ironic phoenix from ashes. But sleep evaded. Victor's postcard haunted. Echoes. I'd catch myself mid-sentence. Voice dipping to his timbre. Or craving scotch neat instead of Chardonnay.
Dr.
Rao called it traumatic integration. Bullshit psychobabble for possession light. Publicly, I played the survivor. Op-eds in the Times on betrayals blueprint. Podcasts dissecting gaslighting script. Debates flourished, Vox hailing my feminist reckoning. Breitbart sneering corporate castration. Controversies currency. Book sales top charts. A Hulu series greenlit. But privately, the tension coiled. A spring wound too tight. Elena checked in via burners. Dreams of ledgers. His ledgers. Me too. Nights sweating through Victor's boardroom conquests. Waking with his strategies scripted in my mind. The overwrite. Crow's curse. Mutating us into hybrids. Equinox approached. September's slant light a countdown. Victor's bridge reforms, occult calendar or con. I researched. Quantum Wu tied to solstices. Swaps peaking at celestial shifts. Jake scoffed. He's rotting in Otisville. Harp. Let the feds handle. But doubt festered. A prison leak. Anonymous guard claimed Victor ranted of echo chambers, visitors smuggling, resonance crystals. Hargrove's remnants? Or deeper rot? The decision crystallized controversial. Break him out. Not for mercy, for confrontation. To sever the tether. Elena sourced the plan. Black market hacks for schedules. A bribed transport van. Jake washed hands. This ends you. But blood's thicker. He drove lookout. Midnight raid. Otisville's perimeter fence snipped. Guards gassed non-lethal. Ethical line held, barely. Victor extracted. Hooded. Into the van, my body. Frail but feral. We drove to the Nevada airstrip. Full circle. Dust moonlit. Hangar showdown. I faced him across rusted crates. Glock steady. End it.
Victor.
The echo, how? He shed the hood. My features gaunt. Eyes blue-flecked. His leaking through? You can't. Harp. We're entangled. The ritual bound us. Crime to crime. Sin to sin. He monologued. Voice mine but cadence his. The miscarriage? Orchestrated. Pills in my wine to focus on empire. The embezzlement? My idea. Whispered in bed. Ambition he'd amplified. You bore it because you craved it. The swap? Mutual. I felt your rage calling. Lies or truth? Memories surged shared. Tainted. The crime. Ours. A dyad of delusion. I wavered. Gun dipping. Then why frame me? Laughter. Chilling. To free you. From us. Twist inverted. The divorce. A catalyst for awakening. The swap his gift-wrapped hell to force reckoning. But malice laced it. Power play. Testing if I'd crumble or conquer. Elena burst in then. Rifle cocked. Bullshit. You're the poison. Shots exchanged, hers true. His dodge frantic. Chaos. Ricochets. Dust clouds. Victor lunged for me. Hands, my hands clawing. Join me. I fired.
Point blank.
The recoil jarring souls. He crumpled. Blood pooling, dark. Symbolic. No excess.
Dead.
Echoes silenced, as sirens wailed distant. We torched the hangar, evidence. Amulet remnants. The bridge's bones. Fled into dawn. Identities shed like skins. Elena vanished for real. To Canada whispers, I resurfaced weeks later. Grieving widow narrative spun. Victor's suicide. Guilt-ridden. Feds bought it. Hargrove disbarred. Loose ends tied. Epilogues debatable. Happy. Or tragic farce. I sold the brownstone. Relocated to a Seattle craftsman. Rain-soaked. Anonymous. Theo the barista became more. Mornings with espresso. His ink tracing my scars. The foundation ballooned. Victims' voices amplified. But echoes? Faint, a ruthless glint in negotiations. A dream whisper of swaps. Victor's ghost? Or mine? Evolved? Last Christmas. I strung light solo. Bing Crosby muted. No papers. No servers, just quiet. They bet I'd break. I bent. Reforged. But in the mirror, whose eyes stare back? Yours to debate. Redemption's arc. Or darkness echo. Eternal.